All right, let's get right into it. We're going to step into the shadows of Halloween, the night of costumes and candy. But we're going to look at 3 true stories where the horror was absolutely real. We're going to deconstruct these encounters to figure out what exactly makes a story so terrifying. What makes these stories so chilling isn't that they're just some campfire tale or a scene from a horror movie. Nope. These are real things that happen to real people on a night that's supposed to be all about fun and games. It's a reminder that sometimes the mask, well, it hides something way more sinister than just a costume.
So all 3 of these stories start in the most familiar settings you can imagine. Places of comfort, of community, places where you expect to have fun, not to be afraid. And that backdrop is so important because the real horror comes from shattering that illusion of safety.
Just picture the scene, right? This is the world these people were in. You've got community festivals, trick-or-treating in a friendly neighborhood, haunted hayrides at a family resort. It's all just pure, wholesome Halloween fun. Or at least, that's what it's supposed to be.
Okay, so let's dive into our first case study and see exactly how that sense of safety gets broken. This story is about a 12-year-old boy. He's at that family resort on a haunted hayride, surrounded by other families. It should be a totally controlled, safe environment. But someone else is there, and they are definitely not part of the show. And then comes this single, absolutely terrifying line. It confirms the boy's worst fear. That man he saw just standing there, motionless at the edge of the woods, he wasn't just some random guy. He was watching. He'd already picked his target long before he ever said a word. Just look at how this unfolds. It's so methodical. It kicks off at 7:30 with him just watching from a distance. An hour later, he's closer, still watching. By 9 o'clock, he makes his move. He starts following them into an isolated area. And it all leads to this, just 5 minutes later, a direct attempt to lure them away. This wasn't a random encounter. This was a hunt. And the tactic he uses here is luring. Think about it. Offering candy on Halloween, it's the perfect cover. He's literally using the traditions of the holiday as a weapon, twisting this festive ritual into a calculated tool to get a kid to trust him. Now, our second case also involves a predator who's hiding in plain sight. This time, it's a 22-year-old guy taking his younger sister and nephew trick-or-treating. The streets are starting to empty out when he notices someone dressed all in black just standing in a dark yard, watching them. So when he confronts this person, who turns out to be a woman, she says she's an undercover cop investigating a break-in. And right there, that creates this huge internal conflict, right? Do you trust the person who looks like an authority figure, or do you trust that gut feeling screaming that something is dangerously wrong? But his instincts were just going crazy. So he starts picking her story apart. Right there in the moment, he's thinking, okay, why would an undercover cop be wearing full tactical gear for a break-in? And why is she just standing in the dark, not, actually investigating? None of it made any sense. He was questioning her story, and that's probably what saved their lives. And then she drops this bombshell with this creepy, unsettling smile. She says this. And that's not a threat. That's a statement. It confirms every single one of his suspicions in the most terrifying way you can imagine. Her story was a total lie, her intentions were awful, and the only thing that messed up her plan was the fact that he was armed.
And right as she says that, her backup appears. This wasn't some lone wolf. This was an organized group. And that just ramps up the threat from a one-on-one situation to a full-blown coordinated ambush. A quiet neighborhood street had just become a hunting ground.
All right, our final story is maybe the most direct violation of safety there is. It's about a man home alone after all the trick-or-treaters are gone, and he hears a faint knock. But it's not kids looking for candy. His fortress, his home, is about to be breached. This isn't someone just smashing their way in. It's this chilling, methodical process. First, a faint knock, just to see if anyone's home. Then, the quiet jiggle of the doorknob, checking for an easy way in. When that doesn't work, he sees the guy outside with a crowbar, and then he hears the pop of a window screen being removed, and finally the sound of cracking glass. Every single sound is another layer of his safety being ripped away.
But here's the really crucial part. It's what the police found on the intruder after they caught him. This was never just about a burglary. Look at this toolkit. Nobody brings duct tape, zip ties, and rope to steal a TV. This shows this was planned out for something way, way more sinister. We're talking control, capture, and violence.
In all of these cases, the actual encounter might have been over in just a few minutes, but the psychological damage? That's a whole other story. The fear doesn't just disappear when the threat is gone. It sticks around. It creates this echo that can last for years.
And this really highlights that contrast, doesn't it? An event that lasts maybe a few minutes creates a psychological scar that leads to years of paranoia. The narrator from that second story, he talked about needing therapy, installing cameras all over his house just to feel safe at home again.
And if you thought it couldn't get any creepier, listen to this. The threat didn't actually end that night. Days later, he gets a text from a random number, and it's a photo of his car parked at his house. The message is clear. They knew who he was, they knew where he lived, and they wanted him to know they were still watching. His home wasn't a sanctuary anymore. It was just another place they could find him.
So after breaking down these terrifying, real-life encounters, is there one big takeaway? Well, yeah. All three stories, as different as they are, they all point to one fundamental rule for survival.
And this is it. This is the lesson, straight from one of the survivors. In every single one of these cases, survival came down to awareness. The boys ran because they sensed danger. The man with his family questioned the fake cop's story. The homeowner heard those quiet sounds of someone trying to break in. They were all paying attention.
And that really leaves us with this final question, doesn't it? Halloween is the one night of the year when everyone wears a mask, which makes it the perfect camouflage for people whose intentions are truly monstrous. So how do you spot the real monsters? Well, it seems the answer is to trust your gut and to never, ever stop paying attention.